Hey guys, tonight we're going to do a two-part. So we're going to start off with the Platatac Peacemaker chest rig. This is an older one. They've since further refined it and added capabilities to it. I don't know if it's Gen 1, Gen 2, but I think that's about as new as it gets for what this could possibly be. But we'll get this on the table and take a look at it and all the different components to enjoy there. And then we've also got the Spur Tropical Pack, which ironically somebody asked me about in response to the Arvin video that I just did. Kind of an obscure comparison, but I happen to have one on hand, so figured I'd get this on film before I send this off to a buddy along with the chest rig. So let's get them on the table one at a time and take a look at them. All right, guys, so looking at this Peacemaker chest rig, like I was saying in the intro, I don't remember what generation this is, and I couldn't find a label on it to clear that up, so I'm not sure. All right, so we'll do our best on here and just know that like whatever generation is currently for sale is not in this exact configuration, and that's okay. Platatac does a pretty good job of showing you kind of what's available on their products. All right, so I've had this one probably 10 years now. It doesn't get a lot of use, obviously. But a lot of the features and a lot of kind of the Platatac style remains the same, and I'll go through that because some of it is a little odd. Platatac makes great kit, in my opinion, but I do believe it is all Asian-made and not actually made in Australia, with whatever their QC process looks like. So it does have some oddities in the construction, and you do kind of roll the dice on the actual manufacturing a little bit, right? But if you're staying within like the Platatac family of products, it all works together pretty well, and the quality is plenty good in my experience, and I've used a good handful of Platatac products. All right, it's very similar to sword products. If you've used sword products in the past, they both have all of the oddities they kind of share. Right, so some of the measurements are a little off. Some of the buckles are not quite what we're familiar with, and then like converting materials in millimeters or centimeters to what we're used to in moon units. Some things are just a little strange. Right, but we'll kind of go through what they got on here. And hopefully it kind of showcases what the Peacemaker chest rig family is capable of. All right, so in the side pocket here, and both of these side pockets are the same, I've got a one quart canteen. All right, and you can see that doesn't fill out the pouch completely, and you can kind of see on the bottom here it's a square-ish profile to that pouch. So I think if you were going to do this right, you would probably need to get the more squared off 1 liter bottle from Platatac, which looks like a pretty dope bottle in the first place. It kind of blends or fills the gap between like how low profile a canteen shape can be compared to a Nalgene bottle. So, you know, you've got a fairly wide bottle compared to a Nalgene, which, you know, sticks forever off your kit because it's so round. The square bottles are kind of a happy medium there. So that's what fits in that pouch pretty well. You would also have good luck with like a 100-round nutsack if you wanted to. Or it's not a bad GP pocket, being that it's kind of squared off. You could fit medical insert in there if you wanted. You could put more mags in there if you wanted. All sorts of options, right? What's interesting is it is both Velcro closure and the kind of surface mount side release buckle. Now, if you watched my recent video on the Platatac pouches that were on that Bees chest rig, I kind of complained about those buckles. For whatever reason, older Platatac stuff, and maybe this isn't good information anymore, didn't use the buckles that we were more used to in America. So these actually work out really well. They're not overly stiff and they manipulate pretty easy. On the exterior face of that, you have an abundance of what is pretty close to Molle webbing. Sometimes the Platatac specs on these got a little wonky with converting rest of the world units to moon visitor units, but you have a copious amount on the face of this, and I don't know the current configuration, so I'm not going to beat that to death too much with how much is on there. But suffice it to say, all of the surface of that pouch was covered in PALS webbing. Right? Additionally, you had a pretty hardy grommet on the bottom of that, as you do on all of the pouches on here. And then you had this goofy kind of elastic strapping on here in kind of a cross pattern, which I do believe was for a smoke grenade or some other goofy upside down ordnance that Australia has access to. I honestly never used that. The few times I used this thing, and you would probably be doing all right to just cut that off, pop those stitches and get that out of there, because it is a little bit of a snag hazard. All right, I don't necessarily agree with all the features on here. Some of them are unneeded and better done through other manners. All right, but that's there. It's mirrored on both sides. I can't remember if that was a bandage thing or if it was a smoke grenade thing, but it's there. All right. Interestingly enough, even if this chest rig wasn't large enough for you, it has 4 belt loops hanging off the bottom of it, so you could tie it into your belt kit if you wanted to, which may or may not be a bad idea. I don't know. It could be a little interesting for you with a non-split front chest rig attaching to a split front belt, as most belts are. Seems like a lot of steps. So that would be another feature that I wouldn't have too many qualms about removing. And it looks like you could do that pretty cleanly by just unthreading that, and that would remove your belt loop, and the only kind of leftover snag hazard you would have would be that little D-ring there, which is no big deal, or tri-glide, right? But if you had an exceptionally front-heavy belt for whatever reason, maybe that would help level things out. I'm not sure. It is interesting, though, because even if you're a larger dude, this isn't going to go much past 3 and 9 o'clock, so you don't have anything attached to the back of your belt to kind of counterbalance the weight of the chest rig. All right, continuing across the front, there's a wide but very skinny and very short GP pocket here. Things that I've used in the past that would fit well in there is like a baton or a handheld Garrett metal detector would fit in there. An ISLID would probably fit in there. I don't think I've ever had my hands on an ISLID, but that would fit in there. Or some range finders and whatnot, monocles, all valid options for that. I don't think that would be the best option as like an IFAC, because when you're wearing this thing, the mags are going to be in the way. And a little bit of a mystery pouch for what you're reaching in there to find. And then that has some PALS webbing across the front as well. Kind of a goofy layout of PALS webbing, not overly useful. It's really more ideal for like Alice clips, because with the two touching rows of Molle, you can't really weave anything correctly. So I think a tether point for sideways hanging stuff, maybe like you could rubber band some tourniquets on there pretty well. That's take it or leave it on that. I would probably have preferred just not have that on there. And then interestingly enough, and we'll get to the back of this in a little while, it does have Velcro down here for mounting a dangler. All right, so I mentioned this is probably 10 years old at this point. For whatever reason, I first saw the concept of a dangler from Sword, and I think Platatac at the same time, but I know for a fact Sword had it. So I think Australia might have beat us to the dangler game, but this does have the option of mounting a dangler on here. All right, and then we get to the mag pouches. All right, so the mag pouches, the inside ones don't have any moly on the sides of them, and then the outside ones have a single column of moly on the outermost face. I appreciate that attention to detail there, right? Because it wouldn't make a ton of sense to try to wedge something in between these mags that would just get in the way of drawing the mags. But on the sides of those mag pouches, it's free real estate, right? So if you need a pistol mag or a Leatherman or something like that, slap it on the outsides of that. Additionally, you kind of have the option of mounting something on the front of these pouches. I don't know that anything would really make a ton of sense there. Maybe a compass. What I think would make more sense for using that, and what I've done in the past, is I'll use 3 cells for magazines and 1 cell for a radio, and then you've got a place to secure some wiring if you need to, or mount your push-to-talk, especially if you're using something like a Silex and you've got the big old brains to the system. You mount that right on the front of the radio pouch. So I had good luck with that. But to kind of display what these can hold, so in this one I've got a single 308 mag. This is a 25 round mag, so you can see with a Ranger plate, like the pouch doesn't close all the way, but a normal 308 mag would work out just fine. This one I've got 2 20 round AK mags, and you can see the mag pouch closes up fine. I'm not worried about these buttons at all. That's kind of silly in my opinion, because can't really cancel out the Velcro, so like how much more closure strength is that really adding? But with the 2, you could make that snap if you had to. And that's 2 AKP mags. I had good luck with airsoft AK-74 mags in these. I think I could fit 2 per cell, and I believe because they were longer, I tucked the lids into the pockets and just didn't worry about the lids. And then in this one, I've got 2 5.56 PMags, and those fit just fine as well. I tried 2 steel mags in here, and they fit. I don't think you could shove a 3rd steel mag in there, nor would you really want to. But like I was saying in the past, there's no real provision for tucking this in here. But I have done that in the past, and you're going to kind of want to plan on taking out both of those mags at the same time. With both of them in there, it's fairly snug. It could be more snug for sure, and you could tighten that up by running some shot cord from the side molly all the way across to the other molly and really snug those down. But either way, if you're running them open top like that, you're going to want to take out both mags, or plan on using both mags. Looking at the back of this thing, we've got mesh, which is a little misleading as we look at this on the back. There's this open pocket here, which is in line with those stitches, and then there's a zippered pocket underneath that, which runs out to where those kind of canteen pockets are sewn in. So we've got always open admin space, and then zipper closure admin space. What makes more sense in either of those, I'm not sure, but there's no Velcro to contend with on the back of that. And then very nice straps. They're wider straps with webbing running the full length, which I appreciate, especially for how old this was. Plenty of room for comm routing. And if you wanted to put like a compass pouch or strobe pouch or something like that on the shoulder straps, you had plenty of room. You could actually layer multiple pouches if you needed to kind of free up some of that GP space. And then looking at the buckles here, don't think I saw a label on here when I was looking at it earlier, but they're not quite the buckles that we're used to. And then we had a big hardy 2-inch strap around the back, which was kind of interesting. Not really a load-bearing strap, but that's a hardy one, which maybe if you're really torquing it down, that's going to feel a little bit better than like a 1-inch rear strap. But I think we've kind of gotten past the point of just super crude webbing straps. Like a lot of folks are incorporating elastic now into it, and I think we've kind of matured in our chest rig harnesses. But for how old this is, really nice harness on it, and a pretty cool user-friendly setup for multiple options. I'll show you, like a a Motorola radio fits in there fine. If you had like a cattails antenna, you could leave just a little bit of a gap there, and there's plenty of room there for that antenna to sneak out the side, and then plenty of room for a side connector coming off that radio. 148s, 152s, much too tall for these pouches. I wouldn't recommend doing it, but any like civilian radio, have at it. All right. So we'll get that out of the way, and then we'll talk about the backpack. All right. Probably need to zoom out just a hair here. All right. So this is the Spur Tropical backpack. All right. So 4 pouches on the outer face. Each one good for a 1 liter water bottle, preferably a canteen. I did test it. If canteens fit the best in these pockets, especially compared to an Nalgene. These front 2 are a little bit more snug, and most of that's because of the way they finish the pocket off here. They just kind of flip their Cordura inside out on itself, and it's just, I think mine's just old enough that it's a little tacky, and that was kind of catching on the canteen. Side pockets that fit, no problem, and then obviously you can tighten that down a little bit if you need to. We've got some, those straps come across the top. Looks like I lost my buckles there, but you have some vertical compression strap capability on the front of this thing. I should have prefaced this, I'm sorry. I don't know how much has changed throughout the generations of this. This is also pretty old at this point, but I do know they're still making at least some version of the Spur Tropical pack. All right, so on the front face, you've got kind of the Eagle 3-day like slash pocket style. It's a pretty good hardy size pocket in there for like a wet weather layer, or a poncho, or if you needed some sort of documents or a map or something like that, could keep it pretty handy there. And then as I was looking at this, I was comparing it to the Arvin to see and hopefully kind of answer this dude's question. And this like middle pocket here opened up is really about as spacious as that Arvin rucksack was. Granted, as you use the back pocket, that's going to fill up a little bit, but like this is probably 2.5 times the capacity of that Arvin rucksack. Like it was pretty small. So that's that kind of middle pocket, and then the main pocket here on the back is pretty hardy as well, with a bladder pocket there, a bladder hanger done with some one wrap, or I think this is Dyneema or whatever this little cord is, and then there's a comically small hydration pass through here, so you'd have to take the bite valve off and run it out through there. Looking in the interior, it's been a while since I've used this thing. Nothing else going on the interior. So we talked about the 4 bottle pockets there. On the base, you do have a little bit of tie-down area for a bedroll or something like that if you wanted it. And then really like the most interesting piece of this, with Platatac not being a pack company, in my opinion, all right, a lot of gear makers make packs as well, and some of them are not good because they don't just make packs, right? Like Mystery Ranch is a pack company, and their packs are exceptional. This one, however, is very interesting in the way they did this frame. So there is an X frame behind here with some spacer mesh sewn to the pack body there to ensure that, like, even if you're crazy loaded down, this frame doesn't actually contact your back. Like, you're going to hit that spacer mesh first. And then they've got this like really taut panel here that the waist belt is connected to. It's not always that noisy when you're wearing it, but that keeps the pack kind of pushed away from your back and really gives you some nice ventilation, which I think is where the tropical piece of the name of the pack comes into play. So we've got the waist belt, is all tucked back in here. So it's kind of a small pack for a waist belt, plus it's just like 1.5 inch, 2-inch webbing here, 1.5 inch. So like you really don't need the hip pad you know, wrapped around you to serve its purpose. It's kind of acting as a lumbar pad there, whether you secure it or not. And then with that frame there, it is a very comfortable pack for its size and what you can fit in there. You know, even with 4 liters of water in there and some fairly heavy sustainment stuff, it carries very well for what it is. The straps are nice. They've got some good padding in it, and we've got some load lifters here, which, you know, again, for not being a pack company, like this has some very nice pack features in it. The load lifters are pretty important there to really kind of tweak the final step in the fit there. And then you've got your sternum strap if you need it as well. But there's a nice contour to these straps, good padding, a little bit of mesh there, and then plenty of strap to, if you need it to go over body armor, it can. It's really, you know, more ideal without body armor, but it fits well and it's comfortable. And that is the Platatac Spur Tropical Pack. Pretty cool setup. Really interesting zipper pulls on this thing. They're quiet, and they're like 3-position zip ties, kind of, which, you know, would really only be optimized for like zipper pulls, but they have an interesting rubbery feel to them. I don't know if they're still using these on their packs or not, but they're pretty gnarly, and it would have been neat if they could, you know, fit those right on the zipper itself, because you've still got the metallic pull on there. But it gives you much more to hold on to, especially if you're wearing gloves or something like that. So there you go. 2 really cool Platatac products. If you've never checked them out before, definitely go explore their website. Just, you know, be prepared if you get attached to something like it's coming from Australia, and unfortunately you're going to have to pay for that shipping. But in my experience, it hasn't been too brutal in the past, and I have ordered most of my Platatac stuff straight from Australia. So check it out, guys.